our mastermind yesterday, I think the event went really well. We covered a really unique topic because we talk a lot about, having your unique um, niche, and I'm getting crushed, by the way, from people like it's pronounced niche. Okay, cool. Niche or niche, however you'd like to pronounce it. The point is, when we talk about building a real estate sales business, it's important for a real estate agent to have a specific niche that's part of their lead generation model. And the reality, Ben, as you and I know through coaching thousands and thousands of agents, is it's rare that agents have a specific, unique niche that allows them to separate themselves in the marketplace. Our event yesterday was all about the divorce real estate niche. And we
Mm.
had probably one of the industry's top people at the event yesterday, Laurel Starks. And so I thought that in today's episode, we could kind of unpack that event, maybe talk about any big ahas for you. I've got some notes that I could share with the audience too. But
Um,
I thought overall the event went really well from the standpoint of most of the people at the event yesterday. It was their first time really hearing anything about divorce real estate niche. To me, that was a big aha. How about you?
Absolutely. I think people have heard about calling on maybe direct to divorce people and have heard of that, but never in the context that we're about to kind of outline for people, on how it can kind of be turn into a reoccurring partnership, on the other end, and not leading with the actual client that's getting divorced.
Yeah, the biggest difference is you're exactly right. Going from what traditionally most realtors think of a B2C business to a B2B business. And
That's right.
we've been shouting that from the mountaintops for years and years and years. I'm
Yeah.
hoping that agents are starting to consider the fact that, hey, we should have a B2B element inside of our lead gen model. And I think once agents start to wrap their head around that whole piece, they'll be a lot better off, right? So let's break this down. I think there were 5 or 6 different sections of the event, and I just have some good takeaways. I want to start off by talking about um, like the value that this model brings to a real estate agent, like why an agent would even focus on the divorce niche in the beginning. And we talked about some really good things. Number one, and I thought this was great, was every real estate agent understands, hey, my job is to focus on finding people that have the highest motivation to buy or sell a home. Well, the way Laurel outlined this was great. There's no higher motivation than having a court order that you must sell your house in this time frame. Like, isn't that a realtor's dream? Like that, there's nothing more. I mean, the second closest thing would probably be like a probate sale. But when you talk about
Sure.
motivation, where a judge is ordering you to sell your property inside this time frame, I mean, that is ideal for a real estate agent.
Absolutely. And being able to serve them in that way. We talked a little bit about the economy, right? But when you're ordered to do that, it doesn't matter what the economy is doing, right?
That's
It's
exactly right.
happening. And so it can be somewhat economy proof. We talked a little bit more about how it's like, in when things are good, maybe they're not as relevant, but when things are bad, it can be a great time for a realtor to really help them through that.
Well, yeah, that's the second thing I was going to bring up, Ben, is like it totally is market proof. I believe that. Why? Because it doesn't matter what mortgage rates are, people get divorced. I'll tell you what isn't part of the process of people filing divorce, what the housing market and mortgage rates are doing. Like no one
Yeah.
considers that when they go and file for divorce, I promise you. And so
Yes.
that's the other benefit of having a niche inside of your lead generation model, is having a part of your business model that doesn't depend on market circumstances. And so the divorce real estate niche does that really, really well. Let me go through a couple more of these and then I'll get your take on it. So All right, real quick, and then we'll get right back to the content. If you're a real estate agent, you're looking to build a listing-based business, a business where you can generate a multiple six-figure income, a business that doesn't require you to waste thousands of dollars on the new marketing gimmicks, then I'm going to invite you to click the link right underneath this video to learn about our Listing Agent Academy coaching program. This is a 6-month intense coaching system that more than 3,000 agents from every market all over the country have now gone through. And here's the reality. Here's the truth. I will shoot you straight. This program is not for everyone. This is for agents who value being around winners. They value being in a community of other real estate agents that actually show up, that actually put forth the work. And this is for agents that embrace high levels of accountability and visibility. To get the details, all you have to do is click the link beneath this video. You can schedule a coaching consultation and then you can decide for yourself. So with that being said, let's jump back into the content. High motivation, market proof, competition was the other thing I wrote down. Like, there is no competition. You don't have any competition with divorce real estate listings because the other realtors in your area, if you really master this and you become an expert inside of this real estate divorce family law practice or industry, your competitors can't even fathom all the work that it takes for you to understand the process. And so you don't have competition. And then fourth thing I wrote down was one client equals potentially 3 transactions. So you can triple your income and the opportunity, the revenue opportunity, just serving one client. Those are the 4 things I wrote down on like the value of this niche. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. The only commentary I would add to that is just the fact that, well, let's move on. I don't want to get too into the weeds yet, but no,
Okay.
that's phenomenal.
Perfect. All right. So the question often comes from agents that are thinking about this as, you know, any niche for that matter. But the question often comes up, well, what do I do to provide value to the family law industry or to divorce attorneys? Like, how do I go about doing that? Because here's the biggest mistake that newer, inexperienced, I'll call it entrepreneurs that understand conceptually, Ben, that they should have some referral partners in their business. Once they get that, their biggest mistake is they lead into that relationship with their hands out.
Yeah, and you started by saying, what's the value I can bring to attorneys? I don't even think, a lot of times we think that way. It's like, how do I get a deal from an attorney is what they're thinking first off. So
100%. And like, this is the mindset that is so difficult. And certainly with real estate agents, but all entrepreneurs, it's like they get into these relationships with like, what can I get out of it? And therefore they never get anything because that's just not how human relationships work. Right. And so just use some common sense. It's like, you're going to pour into a relationship, not because of what you can get, but because of what you can give. What value can you provide to another human being? And what are we talking about? We're talking about the law of reciprocity. And so like, if you're just giving, like, what can I do so that this person gives me clients? Dude, it's a wrap. Don't even start. Don't even start. But
what's the formula? Do I need to give them 1, 2, 3 things and then I'm going to get something back? It's like, I brought something up to you the other day, right? Gary Vee has a great book. It's called Jab, 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 Right Hook, right? Value, then ask for something. In this case, it's just jabbed forever.
That's right.
And then just wait, right? Until it's so apparent that you can, potentially get something in return. We're talking about serving at a really high level with no timeline.
That's right. That's exactly right. I mean, that's what we do with this YouTube channel, quite frankly. Like for years, since 2017 now, 6, 7 years, just been giving. And some people who watch the content want our help to implement on some of the concepts that they learn on the channel. And those are the people we end up working with in a more intimate coaching relationship. But the channel does that is what we do here. So anyway, um, so value to the industry, right? So the easiest way that I can outline this, Ben, is by explaining it like this: that any referral partner, the biggest value that we bring is by becoming an extension of the services that they offer to their clients. Well, what do I mean? Specifically, when I say this, every realtor will get it. If Ben, you're my loan officer, I'm a real estate agent, I need a loan officer because I have clients that need to buy a house. Well, if a realtor thinks about it this way, they just get it instantaneously. What is the most value you can give me? It isn't taking me golfing. It isn't bringing me Krispy Kremes to my office once a month. Can you show us those just as an example?
Yeah.
I love it.
Thanks,
It
Dad.
isn't. It isn't that. What is it? It's giving my client that I refer to you an amazing experience when they get their mortgage through you, so that it makes me look better. And my clients are like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy you introduced us to Ben. He did an amazing job. That's what I need from a referral partner. And now I'm hoping agents have this little aha moment to say, wow, I'm an extension of the service they provide. So once you get into a relationship, the value you provide to an attorney is there's this marital asset, the home, that oftentimes has to be sold. And so what can you do to take the headache away from the divorce attorney and opposing counsel to make their lives easier? That's the most value you'd ever provide to them. Much more. Certainly there was a laundry list of other things that we can offer, like offering to help the attorneys assess value, right? So that the
Yes.
divorcing couple doesn't have to hire an appraiser, giving a market kind of snapshot to the attorneys, like just so they can have an educated conversation with their clients, things of that nature. But more so than anything else, it's being that extension of service. Your thoughts?
Yeah. I think, and maybe you touched on it a little, but it's adding value just on like trends and information in the real estate market, because right now where they get their information is Yahoo, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's on the news, which is it's flavored for entertainment in a way, for clicks, all of that stuff. So like
That's
we
right.
almost have to be like the local real estate news anchor for these guys, in a way of giving them like real live information so they can feel equipped for those conversations.
This is why, and I won't go down this rabbit hole too much, this is the importance, Ben, of the weekly email. That's how this whole thing ties in. And so, like, when you are sending your weekly email to your database, which should include referral partners, this is how you're serving that entire community in a leveraged way and positioning yourself as an expert at the same time. If you can put your weekly email into video content, video format, even better. So every week, you're really updating the people in your database with what's happening in the housing market right now. And they're getting their source of housing information and real estate updates from you and not from the local news channel that has a bias towards this message. That's a really good start.
Think about this.
Yeah.
This is a long-term play, right? If you're
Yeah.
looking for a deal next week, next month, this isn't what you're doing. But think about you making the connection, putting them on your newsletter, them reading that, and then 6 months later, 3 months later, 90 days later, they're watching the news. And what you talked about 90 days ago in your newsletter, they're talking about. And the credibility that can be built over time that you can earn with these people versus trying to go in there and force a relationship.
That's right. This is part of that jab, 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 jab strategy. It's like, provide tangible value in the way of information that they can use in their practice. And that's how you're serving them. All right. The other thing is like, okay, well, how do I actually break into building some relationships with divorce attorneys? Like, that's the other thing, right? So, how do I provide value? Awesome. Got it. What do I do to actually communicate with some of these human beings? So we talked about a lot of things, but you and I talked about something after the event that didn't come up that has worked the best for me. And that is and I love the way you said this. It's like how any business is done with any business professional. And that's simply through like hand to hand combat, I'll call it. So what I mean by that is this, like to be tangible so people have a takeaway from the episode. I have gotten pretty much all of my attorney relationships through personal introductions. So the way I do it is we all know, especially right now at my age right now at 40, unfortunately, it's like every single person I know right now is getting divorced. Like that's just the reality of that 40 to 45 range. And because I truly specialize in divorce real estate, I just ask my friend who got divorced, "Hey, did you like your attorney?" They're like, "Oh yeah, they're the best. They're amazing. Hey, listen, I don't even know if you knew this, but I like divorce real estate's a huge part of my sales business, my sales
Mhm.
practice. Um, and I don't know if your attorney has a go-to real estate person. Would you be opposed to throwing us on a group text and giving me an introduction so I can at least take them to coffee and see if there's a business relationship for us to have?" For me, Ben, that's been the number one like super tactical thing that has allowed me to get in front of divorce attorneys more so than like reaching out to them cold through DMs or email or showing up at their office or you know different events you can go through your bar association. More so than any of that, it's just been through personal introductions.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, my niche has been investment real estate.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Like you run into somebody that is, you know, crushing it. Here's the conception too. Like people think, oh, all these attorneys, they've already got people. Right.
Mm,
And, um, you know, their goal is just to serve at a really high level. And if you can provide that, then you can tap into that world, especially if you get these introductions and you're educated. I think that's a piece too to note. Like, when we say like, hey, I specialize in this is the one field where we really recommend that you get educated first.
that's right.
And don't just like jump into it because, as you can imagine, attorneys can sniff it out, right? If
Yeah.
you're saying this, they're gonna be like, I haven't heard your name. I haven't seen you in the courtroom. I don't know any attorneys that know you, like BS. And then you're blacklisted, right?
That's right. You can't fake it in this niche. You cannot
No.
fake it in this niche or the probate niche, which are two really lucrative opportunities for real estate agents. Like you have to be educated. Like you have to. It's a great point you bring up that we talked about in the mastermind event yesterday. Like you can't just go out there and start banging on doors and trying to. It's not a turn and burn model. It's not like an outbound approach. Like you just. This is completely different. This is a professional's game. And
Yes.
so like it requires a level of expertise before you even think that you're going to break into this niche. Um, and you reminded me of something, but now I'm drawing a blank, but it's all
The
good.
goal is to have partnerships for decades,
That's
right?
right.
And our goal is to serve like the entire community, not just like one or two. They might be like your main people, but the way that it works, we won't get into like all the details, but I mean, you want it to be to a degree of like you talking to your friend and getting introduced, and something comes up and they have to provide the judge with a list of some attorneys, and you're like, hey, let's use Brandon. He did a great job on this case. Both sides agree because of your neutrality in the last case that they recommend you, and you're serving the entire law community as a
That's right.
whole.
Yeah. And the other thing too, like, oh, that you reminded me of is going to sit in at the courthouse and listening to some of these, like, because it's public. Anybody can go sit in court and listen to how these divorce cases go. And you're going to
Hmm.
sit there, you can sit there for hours and start to see a ton of divorce attorneys. So
Wow.
when you're then out there in the world, they're like, oh yeah, I saw you at divorce court. It's like, yeah, I'm continuing to work on my craft to just kind of see what's happening right now with family law and how judges are ruling on these cases. That's that's a no brainer. Like if you just sat your
Hmm.
rear end at divorce court, once a week, and you took notes, you started to learn the language, learn the lay of the land. As you start to network and start to meet some divorce attorneys, like those two things, and then they see you from, hey, having some beers on the lake
Yeah.
to in divorce court. It's like, oh, dude, what's up? Good to see
Yeah.
you. It kind of connects the dots. It's a great way to start building these relationships. All right, let's move on to the next topic. So there's a lot of, and here's the other thing. So we're going to talk about, okay, what happens when you get a divorce listing? Because here's the other thing that came up. This is why you can't rush it. That's why you can't just jump into this model, because there's all kinds of compliance and things that you need to know in order to take a divorce listing, because you need to be able to look at a divorce court order or a divorce decree and understand how that impacts the listing. And most agents don't. They've never read a court order. They don't know how to read a divorce decree. They've never looked at one in their life. A loan officer probably could, just because that comes up more when they're refinancing or they're purchasing a home and you have to get that divorce decree. Well, this is the same thing in real estate listings that most agents have no. It would be like reading Chinese or a different language. They just wouldn't have any clue what it's talking about.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pros and cons, or there's a lot of things to consider rather when you're taking a divorce listing that doesn't apply to your normal listing. And then the last thing I think that's really important that we talked about at the event, that is a brand new concept too. Like, probably the thing I get most excited about in this world is testifying in court for a divorce case. Like, there's no better opportunity to for people to discover your skills. And the thing is, Ben, if the amateur finds themselves in this situation, they get exposed extremely quickly, right? So if you're not calm, if you're not cool, calm, and collected under fire, and you can't deal with high pressure situations like being on the stand and testifying in court, like you probably don't have any business in this business, like of divorce real estate. Your thoughts on that piece?
Yeah, maybe this is something you do in chapter 2 of your career. Maybe it's
go.
not something you do right away, because you need to have a level of like everything and building your confidence so you can, back up your CMA when you're presenting it on the stand of
That's
what
right.
the price they should list the home for, right? As a neutral party.
Yeah, that's such a great example of what we're talking about. Oftentimes, one thing that we could offer to divorce attorneys as a thing of value, we talked about, right? Like giving them a CMA and assessing value. The cautionary thing with doing that is you can be then called into court to testify around your CMA. And realtors don't even understand. They're just like, oh, I'm just firing off this CMA real quick. No. Like, be cautious when you offer up a CMA and you give it to a divorce attorney and what that could mean, because you could find your rear end in court, not know it, not be prepared, and be completely, to your point earlier, blackballed because you were so unprepared and you were just like winging it and you were faking it. And now you've ruined all of your chances to ever serve this community.
Absolutely. Yeah. Of course they can get an appraisal, right? But this saves the client time, money. And if you really like step up, it's an easy way for you to serve them and continue to build those relationships.
Especially early on in a divorce case, and I'll leave it here. Like when people are trying to work out some initial like back and forth of like what things look like, just to establish, a high level like playing field of what the marital assets look like. Like most of the time, that's the biggest piece that needs to get split up. Like, are we going to split the equity? Are we selling the house? So anyway, there's a lot we can offer the family law community through the assessing of value. So this is just one niche, right? We talk a lot about a lot of different ones, but I thought our event yesterday went great. And if you guys have questions about this, certainly put them in the comments and we can talk more about that here on the podcast. But appreciate you guys, and we'll see you guys in the next one.